Hey, what is up, Hitori Nation? It's me, Sanosuke, and today I'm going to be talking about the Ryuugan and what it even is for the series of Fate X Destiny, its origins, and kind of like the direction that it's going right now. I'm not going to be giving out any spoilers, well, maybe some very, very minute spoilers about the series, but I'm going to be focusing on the Ryuugan and what it does for the series and what it even means. So, yeah, guys, just sit down, enjoy the video, and I'll see you after the intro. Peace. I am the heart of the void. Man, oh man, that Gohan's work never gets tiring. Anyway, so the Ryuugan. The concept of the Ryuugan is fairly new in comparison to Sanosuke as an actual character or the Hitori clan as a thing. When Sanosuke was first created as Ryu, the Ryuugan wasn't necessarily a true dojutsu or visual technique. It was a part of the demon seal, known as the Akifuin, which literally means demon seal in Japanese. And it was a redesign of the curse mark. If I can find the image, I will pop it up on the screen right about now that I was using. But it would cause like the curse mark type effect, increases power, but in doing so it increases his demon bloodlust, and his eye design would change to a variant. I don't even remember what it looked like back then. It was a variant of the Sharingan. It was before the Mangekyo Sharingan was as big as it is now, back when I first designed the look of what would become the Ryuugan or Dragon's Eye. So it was never really originally intended to have its own properties like the Sharingan. It was just kind of this visual change, kind of like when the character goes Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z, their eyes become a teal emerald color. And it wasn't until 2009, maybe, whenever Friend or Foe started to get more popular, which was an RPG form that myself and Raging X ran. I came with the design of the Ryuugan, or the idea of the Ryuugan, and essentially it was a way to increase Sanosuke's abilities, and it was modeled after the Sharingan, but it had nothing to do with the Sharingan because this site was not related to Naruto, so it was its own entity. And with it, Sanosuke could had localized time manipulation. What that means is, within a given radius, like his Mangekyo in the series, he could do funny things with time. And a lot of it was manipulating time and space. If you've ever seen Heroes, that was one of my inspirations at the time, Hiro Nakamura from that show. He could, teleport using time and space manipulation. With the Ryuugan, Sanosuke could teleport from one place to another within his visual range. So he could, before Sasuke had the cool ability that he has now, where he could change places with, a sword or whatever it is within a certain radius of his Rinnegan or Sharingan, Sanosuke could do that with the Ryuugan back in the day. So I thought it was hilarious when I read that chapter, and Sasuke had the ability that I had basically given Sanosuke, 5-6 years ago. So he could, teleport around was a big part of his character, because speed and power was a big part of his attributes in terms of strength, in terms of actual physicality, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So he could, manipulate time a little bit and do kind of weird things with that. All those within his bloodline, so Kensei and Ryu, shared the same visual line of sight, so they could kind of swap into each other's eyes, kind of like the Rinnegan does, right? And they could see what the other sees. So it was kind of a basic ability in that sense. When I say basic, I mean it wasn't super complex in terms of the amount of abilities that it would allow the user. But the final version of the Ryuugan, the final original version of the Ryuugan, came from a version of Sanosuke from a site called Chaotic Origin, which is a fantasy site where Sanosuke was a dragon character. The Ryuugan allowed him to create the Kasai Enke, which is known as the fire circle. And within that circle, anybody within that radius, which I believe was 15 meter, it was a 15 meter radius, I believe, would fall under his zone of control. And he could teleport within that radius of 15 meters, anywhere he wanted. He could swap places with a sword, he could teleport somewhere he was looking, and things like that. However, he couldn't do it continuously, so after each time he used it, he had to wait another 10 seconds before he could teleport again. The Ryuugan allowed him to see the intentions of his opponents. And I don't mean like Sharingan style. I mean, it allowed him to visually see one's killing intent. So it would appear like a fire in the person's chest, kind of. And based upon the actions, colorations, and movements of that fire, he could perceive what his opponent was going to do. So the counter to that was, if his opponent was capable of concealing their killing intent, or whatever their intentions were, they could almost trick the Ryuugan, making it so that he could not read them like a book. So that was kind of the natural counter to the Ryuugan. So it basically increased his perception. Now, that element of the Ryuugan is going to be making its way into Fate X in some shape or form, specifically for Sanosuke, but every character that awakens the Ryuugan is set up to have a different ability. So for Sano, what we can presume, right, because I don't really want to confirm, but what we can presume is that his ability will be related to time manipulation. And I think that I did talk about in the first episode how if he uses Ryuugan's ability now, he could open a gateway to another dimension, but the gateway is not stable. So it would create almost like a black hole type of deal, only it's in the fabric of space-time. It would completely destroy the reality that they're in, and then eventually it would suck in all the entirety of the multiverse, which sounds crazy OP, I know, but that's kind of the nature of things when you're dealing with quantum theory and string theory and all that fun stuff that I love. So that is kind of the direction that Sano's Ryuugan is going. Time manipulation within and space manipulation within a certain radius. Now the other two brothers, Ryu and Kensei, their Ryuugan will be different. While Sano is more of the physical changes to the world, Kensei will be manipulating the elements on an atomic, I'm using air quotes here, level. Meaning, one thing that we used to do with Kensei, or that one of my friends used to do with Kensei, is he could manipulate the air molecules in someone's body. We're not going to go that far for Fate X, but he could snap his fingers and blow up the air molecules in your body, causing like hypoxia and other things in your blood vessels, and cause, issues. And another thing that he could do was manipulate air or water, and like through palm strikes, he could take the blood, or take the water, H2O, from your blood cells and dry them up and, cause them to die, your red blood cells to die. Again, we're not going to go that far, but that's just kind of an idea of where his Ryuugan comes from, is kind of the manipulation of the elements, specifically wind. We're going to be playing with that concept for him for Fate X, for our series, but that's kind of the direction we're going. Ryu's has always been about physical modification, so increasing his power physically, making him faster, stronger, kind of like the gates, but the drawback is not really present there. It's not the same. You don't die from overusing. So that's kind of like the direction that we're looking at going for each character. So the Ryuugan, in terms of Fate X, our story, it takes the place of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and the Rinnegan for our characters. So every character's requirement to unlock it is different. I don't want to spoil too much as to what's going to go on with Ryu and Kensei in terms of acquiring it, but for Sano, that trigger was the hatred, anger, rage, etc., that he felt when his brother was taken and his comrades did nothing about it. It was kind of that sense of, similar to how a character unlocks the Mangekyo in Naruto, but for Sano it was a little worse, because his Ryuugan, because of the way it's set up, which we'll get into later, harbors something that his brothers does not. And that something is linked to Zorith, the demon that we see in episode 4. Which I don't remember if we actually named him, but his name is Zorith. So it connects to that. So every character will have a different requirement for their awakening, and every awakening will have a different result as far as abilities are concerned. However, the Ryuugan serves a critical purpose for our universe. The Ryuugan is tied to not necessarily the beginning of time, but it's tied to an era that no longer exists within our universe. That'll be another video that I'll talk about, where I'll talk about our 3 eras and our timeline and what they mean. But I think that's about all I want to talk about for the Ryuugan, its history, where it's going, what its whole purpose is to an extent without giving away too many spoilers. And that's it for this week's video for the making of Fate X. If you guys have any topics you want me to cover, any questions, anything like that at all, please post in the comment section below, and I will work that into the schedule, and we'll have another video coming out next Friday. I'll see you guys then. Peace.